Do you know all these cursor shapes and types in Microsoft Excel? Are they all familiar to you? In this third lesson of our free Excel beginner to advanced full course, I'm going to be discussing with you each individual cursor shape, what it means and how to use it. Let's go. And the goal of this particular class is we want to take you through the 9 cursor shapes that we can use to perform specific tasks. Okay? Now, the first one that you'll always see, it's called the standard cursor. Can someone guess in the comments and tell us, what does the standard cursor, as you can see it in the screenshot, do? What have you been using it for? Let's move forward. We have this one here. This is called the I-beam cursor. Do you know what it does? And we also have this one here, the hand cursor. Who knows what this particular cursor does? Then we also have this one here. It's called the fill handle. How many of us have been using this cursor here? Let me show you another cursor here. I don't know whether you have seen this one here, which we have called the selection cursor. How have you been using it? Then we also have another one that I'm going to be showing you right here. This one here. Who has seen this particular type of cursor? It's called the row or column selection. Have we all seen these types of cursors? This is called the move cursor. How many of us have used this? How often have you been using this move cursor? How about this one here that I'm going to be showing you, called the format painter? What does it do? Do we have people who have been using the format painter?
Most times when you are using it in Excel and you want uniformity of the letters, for example, when you have used the bold and in another line there is Arial and you want uniformity, you use that cursor to bring that uniformity across.
Yes, so the format painter cursor will help you to make sure that your formats are uniform. All the types of formats that you know can be replicated by using this particular cursor here, called the format painter. In other words, you may call it a copy and paste for formats. The last one here, this is called the column row resize. What does it do? Now, that's the simple presentation that I had for today. What I will do, I'll head over to Excel and then we go through some of these things practically. Now, let us start with the arrow cursor or the standard or the normal cursor. This particular cursor is the one that you will see across your entire Windows operating system. Sometimes even in the iOS environment, you will see that particular standard cursor. For example, if you actually wanted to customize this cursor, maybe to have it look like what I have here, what do? You come over here to the search area and type in settings. You can search inside your settings. You can search where there is maybe mouse. Let me just punch in here, mouse, and you see a number of settings here popping up. Change mouse pointer size. You see this one here. So when I pick this option, let me see where it takes me. You can see right here on the mouse pointer, I can change the size right here. But this one will sometimes not work for you if you're running pirated operating system. Sometimes you may not get this customization working for you. If you're not running a genuine operating system, you might not have capability to do this. So you can come here and change the color. So you can see the color that I'm using right now is this one here. And for the size, I've just grown it to size 3 here. I can actually expand this to 4, to 5. If the cursor grows a little bit bigger, you can see mine here is somehow so big. And you can change this one. Let me just take it back to, I think, 3 or 4. This one will work. And you can change the colors here. Pick a custom pointer color and click here and customize the colors that you want to show. Sometimes this is helpful if you're going to be doing presentations like I'm doing here, to make sure that the cursor is visible for the people you're presenting to. So pick time, go there and check those settings. You will not harm your computer. Okay. Now let's move over to the next one. Okay. This one is called the text pointer, or what we call the I-beam cursor. This is the second common type of cursor that looks like a capital letter I. Yes. Let me just punch in here some few stuff here. I'll generate a demo table here. So I just say student ID. So as you can see, whenever I start editing here, when I double click and start editing in any of the text or numbers or any content of the cell, your cursor will change into an I-beam cursor. We use it to highlight text. For example, if you go to Microsoft Word, let me just open a Word document here, and I start typing in here something. This is my first time attending the class. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So when you actually start highlighting this text, you see that I-beam cursor right there. Let me hope that these things are not very hard for you guys. Let us look at the hand cursor. What does the hand cursor do? Someone said they have no idea. So the hand cursor type resembles a small white hand with a pointing finger, which usually indicates that the user can interact with some elements like a hyperlink or a button. Let me show you what we mean when we say a hyperlink or a button. For example, I'll type in here my email. Let me just say email ID. Mine, I'll be able to show it here. I have no problem. Let me just punch in here another email here of mine at opentrainingcamp.com. So you see, this is a link for my email that connects to my personal domain. This is a public domain at Gmail, but you can see this one says at opentrainingcamp.com. So this one is recognized automatically by the system that it might take you to an email application that you can start composing an email. That's why it's actually adding that particular underline there. So when you point over, you see the hand, and then it will show you the link that you're likely to navigate to if you actually pointed and clicked using your hand cursor. So when you have emails, this hand cursor will become regular to you. If you're working with hyperlinks, this particular hand cursor will become regular to you. As you add events and start developing some templates for people, you'll start to use these hyperlinks a lot. Let me just assume that I'm working out a table of contents here, and maybe I want to connect this particular worksheet here. So I'll call this one fill handle, and maybe I'll also say selection cursor. I want, if someone points over to this particular text here, they should navigate to this particular worksheet automatically. You get the idea? It's like creating your personal navigation pane.
You can right click.
Insert hyperlink.
I can right click. There's a link here. So I click on the link. Then what do I do here?
You can choose, let me say if it is a document, you can choose a document.
So I say place in this document. You can actually refer to defined names and references to your worksheet. So I want someone to click on that particular text that I've put here, and they are taken to this worksheet called the hand cursor, sorry, the fill handle, and I say, okay. So you can see it has actually added this particular underline here. So when I click like this, you see, it takes me to the fill handle worksheet. So that's a hyperlink that we have just created. And when you actually click on it, it will change some color just to show you that you have ever tapped on this particular link. Similarly, we can do the same here. I will just do it for people who might have missed the steps. Come over to link, and then I'll place, or I'll pick the link from this particular document. If I'm going to be linking to an internet URL, I can use this particular option here, existing file or web page. But for me, I'm going to be linking within the same document. So I use this option here. So let me just do hand cursor here. So it was selection cursor. Then say, okay. So once I click here, you see, I navigate quickly into that particular worksheet. Okay. Now, the other thing we can do with that particular hand cursor is to create, let's say, something like a button. We shall be creating those buttons for macros, but let me just create here something that looks like a button here. Just give it any color. I like to use purple so much. So I'll just do shape fill here, and I do purple. Maybe I can right mouse click and edit the text. Then I say click here to join me. So I can use this one as a button. I'm not good at designing these things, but I just want to demonstrate. So once I get this particular button ready for me and I want people to click, you can use these shapes and add hyperlinks. So when I right mouse click, I say link, I can connect this one to anything. Can either connect to a URL, I can connect to a workbook, I can connect to a PowerPoint presentation, I can connect to a PDF, I can connect to an email. So many things that you can connect to. So let me just take this one to Format Painter. So when I click here, it takes me to this particular worksheet, but it could be anything that you're telling your users to go to. Okay, so let's see what the fill handle does here. So we have a small table that we're going to be using to demo this. We have a products table here. We have the number. the product itself, the quantities, the price, and the amount. Now, what we need to do here is to calculate the amount based on the quantities and the price. Okay, so what I will do, I'll just write a small formula here, which will simply be quantity multiplied by price. If you actually want to copy this formula down to these other cells so that they can also populate their amounts, then you can use the fill handle cursor. So that cursor is always down here. You see, when I point to this particular A, let me just zoom in a little bit so that people can see. At the bottom right of your cell address. So when you point there, you will see the cursor we have called the fill handle, but you can give it your own custom name so that you can remember it. But of course, it resembles this particular cross here. It's a little bit thick and black. So when I point there, I believe everyone can see it. So this fill handle is used to fill these particular formulas down. You can double click the fill handle, or you can hold and drag so that you can replicate the formula. We just wrote this particular formula in one cell. If I want to populate these ones, I can come to the fill handle here and drag and drop like this. If I don't do that, let me just do Control Z. I can come over here to this cell address, which has the formula, and double click my fill handle. Immediately I do that, you will see all these other cells calculating. Let's go to the selection cursor. So this selection cursor, or the general select cursor, is something that you'll always see in your worksheet. Everywhere I go, for as long as I'm within the grid area, it's called the select mode cursor. It's most common in Excel. We use it to select cells by clicking and dragging. But when I click somewhere here, you see the cursor changes. When I move over to this particular worksheet, the cursor changes. When I move up here, the cursor changes. When I move here, the cursor changes. So you need to know, when I click here, the cursor changes. I point here, the cursor changes. So that's why we are showing you these cursors. We are not doing this by mistake. For people who are saying these are just beginner steps, you don't want to know them. But have you tried to know why wherever you're going, the cursor is changing? This is not just by mistake. It is intentional. Are we together? All right. Now let us see the selection cursor here. I'll generate random numbers here, round between. And let me just do 10 to 15 right there. And I'll just populate this particular entire range, and I can also populate for the prices. I'll say round between 1,000 and 40,000. I'm just doing random kind of stuff here. And if I want to actually highlight this entire range, this entire range of cells, maybe this particular first row, I can use my selection cursor like this. All together, we said it is used to select stuff. So I select this cell and drag, holding my mouse, I keep selecting a range of cells like so. You see, I'm moving. All together. But there are also other cursors that we use to do this kind of selecting that can do it a little bit faster. I'll show you as we move forward. But this one is the common one that you will see and helps you to highlight things either in one direction, vertically, or horizontally, or in both directions. Okay, row or column selection cursor, what does it do? We have the same particular data set here, but this is in a table. I'll say equals round between to put in some numbers here. Let me just say 15 to 35. And for the price, I'll go for round between. Let me say 1,000 to 2,000. And for the amount here, this will be a very small calculation here. Now, let us see what this particular type of cursors here do. There are two, one pointing down and the other one pointing to the right. This is used to select the entire column or row. Let me just bold this one here so that it is visible for everyone. This is used to select the entire column or row at once. It does it at once. For example, in our selection cursor, you have seen that it selects one cell at a go. If you want to actually highlight in one direction the entire column, then you use this particular cursor here, which is either the row or column or table selection cursor. Let us start with the row, for example. If I wanted to highlight this row number 9 here, I place my mouse here on the row number. You see, I have placed my cursor on the row number, and you saw this particular cursor changing here. I move out, selection, I come here, row or column. When I point up here, I will call it column selection cursor. When I point here, I will call it table selection cursor. So you need to know those differences. I just click here once. You see, The entire row has been highlighted from column A all the way through to XFD. Right now, when I apply a format, let us test this if it is working. For example, I'll come over to the Home tab and let us give it a yellow background. You may think that this particular yellow background is only to the visible cells to you. No. It isn't. It has actually moved all the way through. Let me just use my shortcut, Control right pointing arrow. You can see that format has been applied all the way through to XFD. So whenever you're going to be formatting a row for your headers, please don't come here. If you come here, you're going to be highlighting the entire row, which sometimes might even cause, performance issues with your worksheets. Okay. Let me just Control Z, and then I can demo this with the column. I believe this is always the same. So when you point up here, you will see the cursor changing into what is called the column selection cursor. This is a column selection cursor. Come back here. This will be a selection cursor. Come back here. Column selection cursor. When I do this, this has now highlighted G or column G all the way through to the millionth row. Are we together? Let me just do that and test. I move down to the millionth row. You see, this particular format has come all the way through here. So how many of us have not been doing this? You let us know in the comments. How many people have been a victim of doing this kind of selection and applying some formats, whichever format you might be applying, but I've also been a victim of doing this stuff. But these days, I'm improving. Let me just Control Z. When it comes to a structured reference like this one here, which is a table, sometimes when you're working with a table, some of the advantages that come with working with tables is selecting stuff. Let me just copy this table here. Maybe I can just replicate this one here. I'll do something here, Control C. I come here, I will do values only. And let me just do some small formatting here for these numbers. I want to make sure that I get a similar format here for the table so that it looks exactly like what I have here. I will do format here and highlight this entire range. So let me just come back here. You see, I'm using the format painter this time. Let me just double click so that I can get the same feel here for all these rows. You see what I'm doing? Do it a little bit very fast. Now I can do all borders. Now what I want to show you is that these two tables are not the same. They are not the same. However much they look exactly the same. I'll actually activate the filters that you're seeing here. Control Shift L. You see, these tables are not the same, even though they look exactly the same. I believe you can see the difference. Now let us see how the selection cursor here, or the table row or column selection cursor works. If I want to select this entire row, I can use this particular cursor here. I'm not pointing to the row number here. I'm not doing that. Let me just create another column here so that I give the gap to see what I'm actually explaining. So I'm not coming over to the row number here so that I get my row selection cursor. I'm actually pointing to the table, and it also appears because the structured reference or the table has that capability. So when I click once, it highlights only this particular row of this table, but this doesn't work in this particular type of table. When I point over here, I still get my selection cursor. When I'm here, I don't see anything. When I stand here, I see the cursor changing. When I'm here on top of the column headers here, for example, the number column, I see the selection cursor. When I'm here, I see a different cursor. Are we together? That is one of the differences between a structured table and this particular normal range. Let me hope that these two cursors here will become handy as you proceed working with the tool. Let us see the move cursor. What does the move cursor do? For example, when I actually pointed here, you see my cursor changed. So the cursor maintained the original cursor that I had, which we call the normal cursor, which is in white, and I got an addition of these arrows. For example, if I came here and inserted an object, for example, I'll do circle one here. Let me just insert an object here. I'll duplicate this. So when I point over to this object, you see, my cursor changes into what is called the move cursor. Why? Maybe my aim is to move this particular shape to any other location, like this. So when I point here, it tells me that this is a shape that is ready to move. Do you want to move? Yes, I want. So I carry and move right here. This is also a shape. Do I want to move it? Yes. I can move it. When I move out, it goes back to the selection cursor. Let me just activate the grid lines here. So I have my grid lines back. If I have some data here, I'll just copy this, copy, and bring it here onto the move cursor tab here. So move cursor does not only move shapes or pictures or tables, it also moves your raw data. Let's assume I want to move this entire table. I'll highlight this entire range. And how do I get my move cursor? Can someone tell me how can I get my move cursor? I've just highlighted this entire table. I want to get the move cursor so that I can move this table to another location. Where do I press?
I think you can hover over the corner until you see the cursor and then drag it, pick it up.
I go to which corner? You know, I don't know which the corner. This one here?
It doesn't matter which one. It doesn't matter which corner. Yeah, of the table, right. Or as long as you see that sign, and then you could just drag the table.
All right, that is perfect. Make sure that you're moving on the edges so that you can see that move cursor. If you keep here, you'll never see it. My friend, don't keep inside here and hope that you'll see the move cursor. Keep your movement on the edges. On the edges of the table. That's when you will see the move cursor. You see, when I've grabbed, the table will give me this particular green line or the shape of the table itself. And then I can declare which position do I want to place this table. I can move it a little bit up. I can move it a little bit down. I can move it or extend it to the sides. I can navigate and move it down like this and maybe bring it here. Depends. So once you're comfortable, you can now release. Once you release your mouse, you'll never see that data set here. It will shift and go back here. Okay. Similarly, you can actually move one single column. So if I wanted to use the price or to not move the entire price column, I can grab it like this, make sure that I move on the edges. Once I see something here, the move cursor, I will now drag this one out. I can bring it here. So this table has been dismantled. We don't have this particular column here. It's now standalone. Now I can create another column here. I can also move this one away. So you can move a range, or you can actually move the entire table, or you can just move one single cell. If I wanted to drag and move this particular cell, I can do that. You see, I've moved, of course, the cell, I've not moved the cell address, C12. C12 has not changed. What has changed is the format and the content that was in C12. It has been moved to G24. Altogether, we don't move the cell address. Those are fixed. They don't move, but we can move the cell contents. All right. Can we move forward to the format painter? I believe I've already shown you how to do the format painter. And I've actually demonstrated that when we actually tried this example here. I've created this particular table, a replica of this table, using the format painter. Maybe I can do it one more time so that people can see. If I want to actually replicate the format that I have here. Anyway, which format do I have here? I have the headings in which font? Let me just bring it back here, my ribbon. I have the headings showing in Calibri as a font, 11, and bold. All that is part of formatting. And I also have the background or the fill color. If I want to replicate it first here, I highlight this entire range, click on my format painter here, just click once, it will be activated. If you're going to be replicating the format once, you click once. If you're going to be doing it a number of times, then you double click it. I'll show you. So I just replicate this format painter. Once it grabs that painter and pastes it here, then it goes away. But if I wanted to replicate this, I'll just Control Z and let me copy and paste these column headers here a number of times. Now, if I wanted to actually grab my format painter and maintain it in memory so that I can replicate the format on these particular different rows, I can double click here. When I double click, I have grabbed my format painter, but when I actually apply it here, I will still maintain it, but I actually grabbed a wrong format. So I'll just Control Z, highlight this format, double click. I have grabbed this format and I want to replicate it over to these 3 rows. I will start with the first one right there. I have maintained it. Remember previously when we did a single click, immediately I replicated the format, the painter moved away. But right now you can see the painter is still on. It means I can paint another area. Let me paint here. You see, I still have my painter with me. I can also paint here. I still have my painter area. So how do I take it off? I can come here and click once, or escape key on your keyboard. Are we together? So that's the format painter there for you. So the format painter is done. Let's move over to the last one here. So this one is the column and the row resize. Here we saw the row or column or table selection cursor. Here we have the column and the row resize cursor. Let me just come over to the row. I believe everyone knows what a row is. If I wanted to expand this row 21, I've grabbed the entire row. Now I want to expand it or increase the width or the row height or whatever. I can use that cursor here. You see this cursor has only one cross. It's like a cross, but the one that is pointing up has arrows pointing down and up. Then the second one doesn't have the arrows. So this is what we use to expand the height of our row. So when I release, you can see this one has expanded and it's now bigger. The other way of expanding these particular rows, we can use our row selection cursor. I can right mouse click and then choose this option here, which is called the row height. When I click in the row height, it will ask me, which row height do you want to implement? Right now, it is showing 20 as the default row height for now. I can grow this number. Let's say I'm doing 50 and say, okay. Similarly, this will work with the column. All together. When I click in between the two columns, C and D, I see the same cursor. Are we together? So this one is used to expand and grow. I've seen people doing this. Haven't you been doing this, my friends? So for example, if I want to expand all of them in one go, what do? I can highlight the entire grid, right mouse click for the column, and then I specify the column width here. Maybe I want 8 and say, okay. I can also come here, right mouse click for the rows, and for the rows I say I want 16 and say okay. So I have resized all of them in one go. Are we together? So I don't expect you to come here and do this. Similarly, you can also write VBA codes that can expand these particular columns automatically for you. You have indeed been a very good student, but you'll become a better student if you practice what we are learning in this particular course. And by the way, if you'd like to claim your certificate of completion after going through this entire course, check the link in the description of this video so that you can register and start doing your exams. And if you liked this particular class, please let me know in the comment section. And also don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you don't miss classes like this. For now, let's head over to our next lesson. Check the video that is showing somewhere on your screen right now. See you then.